RTC Records presents To Live the Truth by Ryan T. Clawson. Read for you by the author. This audiobook is not for sale. I did not write this book seeking material gain, but with the intent and hope to provide value. To Live the Truth is offered freely, with no monetary barrier preventing you from listening. My only desire is that you take the time to listen and seriously reflect on its ideas, so that greater peace, beauty, and joy may enter your life. If you would like to help me share these ideas more widely, I humbly offer two invitations. 1. Pass it on. Tell your friends about it. Let them know that it can be read for free at ryantclawson.com/tolivthetruth. Share it on social media and elsewhere. The true worth of a book lies in its being read. 2. Support the work. If you feel inclined, you can contribute financially to my efforts to spread these ideas. Visit ryantclawson.com/tolivthetruth to make a donation. There is no obligation, but know that any amount, large or small, will be used with gratitude and care. With love and gratitude, Ryan T. Clawson. To my posterity, Jimmy, Carol, Hal, Hannah, and any other peculiar treasure who should come along. Gratitude. This book could not have become a reality without the support and care of my family, friends, and community. I owe them my deepest gratitude. I would like to thank those who carefully read through various revisions of this manuscript and offered thoughtful feedback and encouragement. Cameron, Danielle, Lori, Matt, Stacy, Becky, and Paul. I especially thank my wonderful wife Allie, who has encouraged and strengthened me throughout the writing of this book, spent countless hours listening and discussing its concepts, and challenged me to dig ever deeper. Many of the thoughts within this audiobook could be considered as much hers as they are mine. I thank and praise my God, who presents truth according to our understanding and extends grace so that we all may have the space and time to reach for it. Finally, I thank you, dear listener, for your time and consideration. I pray that these ideas may bless your life as they have blessed mine. Introduction. I am not qualified to write this book, at least not by the typical standards. I don't have a college degree, I haven't received any noteworthy awards, and I'm not considered an authority on any topic or area of expertise. And yet, here it is. So why should you listen? Why should you trust me? Well, first of all, let me make it clear that I don't want you to trust me. In fact, as you'll see throughout this book, I'm asking you not to take my word for it when it comes to any of the ideas I present. Instead, I invite you to put them on trial, take them for a test drive, and find out for yourself whether they hold up. Second, most of the ideas you'll encounter in this audiobook aren't mine. I've gathered them from others, wise and inspired men, women, and even children who, throughout the ages, have shared mind-expanding, soul-enlarging impressions through books and other works. And even the ideas that might seem original are heavily influenced by those who came before. You see, the central premise of this book is this: truth is accessible to everyone, and not only, or even especially, to those we typically call accomplished, or well-educated, or highly experienced. As Paul put to the Corinthians, God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. So how did this book come to be? Why did I write it? Several influences have worked on me, prodding me to share these thoughts. But if I had to pinpoint one impetus that stands above all the rest, I would not hesitate to point to the year 2020. Like so many, I struggled during the COVID-19 pandemic. The isolation of the lockdowns had a major negative effect on my mental and emotional health. And yet, in hindsight, I consider myself both cursed and blessed to have lived through that troubled time, as certain realities were brought to my notice. Things that I had been hiding, forcing beneath the surface to avoid them. In the quiet yet disquieting loneliness of that year, there was no longer the same frantic level of busyness and distraction with which to smother out all these unpleasant truths, and so I was forced to face them. The most alarming of these realities was this: I did not like myself. Myself and I hadn't been getting along for quite a while. Life with myself had become somewhat like having a disagreeable roommate, and now somebody had bolted all the apartment doors and windows, locking us in together. There was no escape, no getting a break from one another. As an outgrowth of this toxic relationship with myself, I had been suffering a host of unpleasant outward symptoms, and each one became magnified by the unique pressure of the pandemic. I was steadily gaining weight and feeling physically crummier and crummier. My social life was deteriorating. Even before the pandemic, I was struggling to connect with people, including my wife and kids. My passion and enthusiasm for life had been declining. I wrestled with occasional bouts of debilitating despair and self-loathing. I had fallen into a faith funk and was struggling to live my long-held beliefs with much conviction. These unsightly signs had been growing and festering for years, yet it took a pandemic to force me to open my eyes and see them, to sit with them and gradually to recognize them for what they were: indicators that I needed to change something. And not just on the outside, but something deep within. Mercifully, though I was undoubtedly sinking, some lifelines had been thrown within arm's reach. Among them were the fading remnants of an upbringing founded largely on good and virtuous teachings. A handful of caring friends and neighbors whose approval convinced me that at least some particle of self-worth yet remained. An angel wife who sweetly endured and chose to love me, as well as the awe-inspiring glimpse into eternity that is the experience of fatherhood. These elements were just enough to forestall drowning, but the force that finally helped me find solid ground again came in the form of an unexpected service assignment in my church, which thankfully I accepted. This assignment put me in regular, close contact with a circle of good-hearted, positive-spirited people. In this group, one man in particular had a profound influence on me. To me, he resembled the character Lucia from the children's book You Are Special, upon whom no dot of disapproval nor star of praise would stick. Somehow, the chaos of the pandemic seemed to have no effect on him. He remained a warm, light-emitting sun around which I had the privilege of regularly orbiting. I had kept my inner suffering private, but his constant sunshine troubled and intrigued me. I began to wonder, what could be the source of his unvarying light? Could it be accessible to me? Finally, one day in January of 2021, I asked him directly, what could I do to capture more of what I admired so much in him? In response, he recommended a book. The specific title matters very little. What matters is that because of my respect for him, and because of the hungry, desperate state I was in, I bought a copy of the book that very day, and I devoured it. Within the book were big, vibrant ideas that filled up my mind and began to shift my world. Without realizing it, my soul had been so ready, so thirsty for something real and enlightening that once those ideas appeared, I couldn't help but believe. And as true belief naturally leads to action, I immediately began to put those ideas into practice. I have a vivid memory of sitting on the couch with my wife Allie only a month or two later. We wept together as we talked about the changes we were seeing. I had started to lose weight and physically felt better than I had in years. I would go on to lose over 30 pounds and have kept it off with little effort ever since. My relationships with Allie and the kids had transformed, and I have since felt a growing ability to connect more deeply with friends old and new. My enthusiasm for life had been renewed. My bouts of bottomless depression disappeared completely and have not returned. Most importantly, I found a growing sense of peace and intrinsic worth within myself. That experience drove me to explore further. If the ideas from one book could effect such an extreme transformation in me, what might others do? I began feasting on acclaimed books across genres: self-help, novels, scripture, plays, biographies, philosophy, history, religion. I found ideas in each of them, patterns throughout most of them. I experimented on these ideas and began building a life based on the results. The outcome so far has been both big and small. My circumstances have not changed much. I still live in the same modest 1980s split-entry home. I haven't had any kind of breakthrough in my career or income. I haven't accomplished any great feat, no marathons, no mountains climbed, no record-breaking business ventures. In fact, many of the external changes I've seen would be generally considered negative. Most notably, in early 2024, I felt strongly prompted to quit my job and write this book. But that's a story for another time. But on the inside, where it truly matters, big changes have occurred. And in such a state, I'm okay if my external circumstances don't change much. And I'm okay if they do. Of course, I still have low moments, but I cannot deny that a significant transformation has come upon me, and I am very grateful. I recently stumbled upon the biblical account of the man who was possessed with a legion of devils. He lived in isolation, helplessly inflicting harm on himself and on any who crossed his path. Then Jesus came, cast the devils out of him, and told him, "Go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord hath done for thee, and hath had compassion on thee." My outward conditions have not been altered drastically like those of that man. However, I must confess that our ever-compassionate God has done immeasurably great things for me, and I feel compelled to tell you, dear friend, all I have learned in the process if you will listen. The title of this book is derived from a line by Oscar Wilde. To live the truth. Ah, that is the great thing in life, to live the truth. I don't claim to have achieved such a lofty ideal of living the truth. Rather, this book represents my hope and efforts to draw ever closer to it, and to invite you to cultivate a similar pursuit. If you retain only one takeaway from this book, let it be this. Make it a lifelong habit to feast on books teeming with great, vital ideas. I call these living books, and will define them more clearly in Chapter 4. The ideas you'll find in this audiobook have been fed to my mind as I've consumed the living works of others. For that reason, you'll encounter more quotes and references than in a typical book. Consider me then your weak and foolish waiter, serving to you a multi-course meal of ideas, a feast prepared by a team of enlightened chefs toiling behind the kitchen doors. I deliver it to you as your humble server, destitute of any qualification besides, perhaps, the simple fact that I like to do a good amount of thinking, and have developed the habit of regularly dining on highly living books myself.